Ironically, the Courchevel Resort runway in the French Alps is on the list of the world's most dangerous airports. This place is known as the favorite ski resort of billionaires from all over the world. However, the runway at Courchevel Airport is really intimidating. First of all, the runway is very short, and secondly, in a certain area it slopes down heavily. When landing, pilots have only one chance to land the plane. At conventional airports, when approaching or even touching the runway, the crew may decide to take off again and try to land again. At Courchevel Airport, pilots don't have that chance. Either they land the plane on the first try, or a tragic situation will occur. Of course, given the size of the airport, it only accepts small planes and helicopters. By the way, write in the comments, are you afraid of flying a plane or not? Let's see who there are more of among the viewers of this video. McMurdo Station in Antarctica. This continent at the South Pole of the Earth does not have a full-fledged airport for obvious reasons. However, there are several airstrips that are used to deliver expeditions and cargo. All of these runways are quite dangerous because the conditions in Antarctica are not the easiest. Everything around is white, and this prevents pilots from maintaining visual contact with the ground. There are also difficulties with the navigation equipment. However, the truly frightening thing is the so-called ice runway. This runway is only being built from compressed ice for 6 months and is located near the US McMurdo Station. After a year, the runway is recreated again. Landing on the ice runway is extremely difficult and dangerous. The reason it is only valid for 6 months is simple: the rest of the time it is polar night and dark all day in Antarctica. It is extremely dangerous to land in such conditions. You have probably seen pictures from this airport more than once on the internet. A plane that flies practically over the heads of people on the beach. This airport is located on the island of St. Martin in the Caribbean Sea. This runway is dangerous to both the plane itself and people near the airport. The runway is adjacent to the beach, which is often crowded with people. Even in ideal weather conditions, landing a plane at this airport is considered a challenge for the pilot. If the weather turns bad, planting requires total skill and concentration. With the development of social media, the beach has become a favorite place for photos. The plane coming in to land creates waves, blows up the sand, and flies so low over the beach that sometimes it feels like you can touch it with your hand. Give us a like if you would also like to visit this beach. Airports are usually located on the outskirts of cities away from homes and densely populated areas, but the Congonhas Airport runway in the Brazilian city of São Paulo is an exception. This is why it is on the list of the most dangerous airports in the world. Pilots must be extremely careful when landing, otherwise there is a chance of rolling out of the runway and crashing into a building that is very close to the airport. In addition, this airport is notorious for the fact that the runway surface is quite slippery. The combination of these factors has repeatedly led to serious accidents. For example, in the year 2007, an Airbus A320 passenger plane failed to brake properly and rolled out of the airport. However, because the buildings are close to the runway, the plane crashed into one of them. As a result, nearly 200 people died. A small airport called Paro is located in the Asian country of Bhutan. This runway is known for requiring almost aerobatic maneuvers to land an airplane. This is because the airport is surrounded by mountains almost 5,000 meters high. Therefore, when landing, the pilot must first avoid hitting the tops of the mountains, and then maneuver the plane by tilting almost 45 degrees, then level it off and land on the runway. Since it is a very difficult task, takeoff and landing at this airport are only done during daylight hours. There are only 20 pilots worldwide who are allowed to take off and land at Paro Airport. It should come as no surprise that after every landing here, there is inevitable applause in the cabin. Gisborne Airport in New Zealand is famous for having a runway crossed by a railroad. This is a working railroad on which trains run. That is why this airport was included in our video. To avoid an unforeseen tragic situation, airplane takeoffs and landings, as well as train schedules, are coordinated in advance. If there is any disruption in the schedule, the likelihood of disaster is incredibly high. Svalbard Airport is located in the Svalbard archipelago and is considered the most northern airport in the world. Its airstrip is built on the ice, with 2 culverts underneath, which allow water to be diverted from the nearby mountain. The runway is insulated from the ground so that it does not melt during the warm season. There is also no lighting on it. As a result, flights are made only during the daytime, which greatly reduces their number in winter, when the sun comes out only briefly. But unlike the airport in Antarctica, you can visit this one because it accepts regular civilian planes as well. Alas, its danger is confirmed by several tragic incidents that have occurred here in recent decades. The airport on the Caribbean island of Saba has the shortest commercial runway in the world. It is only 400 meters long. This is despite the fact that there are rocks on one side of the runway and a cliff into the sea on the other. It is for this reason that the airport is only used by small planes. There is also no fuel on the island, which means there is no refueling of aircraft there. Telluride Airport is located in the mountainous region of Colorado and is considered the highest airport in the world. In the sense that the runway is 5,000 meters high. There is a steep cliff on both sides of the runway, which makes a normal landing here quite difficult. In addition, there are strong mountain winds during the winter months, which makes the conditions even more difficult than they already are. But for any airline passenger, landing here is truly an unforgettable experience. Lukla Airport is located in Nepal, near the famous Mount Everest. Many of those who decide to climb Everest fly to this airport. However, landing here can be just as dangerous and frightening as climbing to the top. Sometimes there is no electricity at the airport and pilots need to maintain constant communication with controllers throughout the landing. The Portuguese island of Madeira is a popular vacation spot for tourists. However, before you can relax on the beach, you have to survive a landing at one of the most intimidating airports in the world. The location and design of the runway is truly intimidating. The runway is located between the ocean on one side and the cliffs on the other. The runway even had to be widened with a section supported by 200 columns. The strong wind, which is a frequent phenomenon in this region, makes the landing even more extreme. Only a limited number of pilots are authorized to fly to this airport. Greenland is a harsh northern region with very difficult weather conditions. It is logical that taking off and landing in this area is not easy. Among the very beautiful but dangerous peaks of Greenland is the runway of Narsarsuaq Airport. Only 1,800 meters long, the strip is difficult because of strong wind gusts and high turbulence. However, this is the only international airport in southern Greenland, so if you want to visit this mysterious territory, you will have to land there. Even on this list of the world's most dangerous airports, there are some that are considered particularly dangerous, one of them being Toncontín Airport in Honduras. Because of its location near the mountains and the narrow size of the runway, landing here has been compared to landing on an aircraft carrier. But large passenger planes do not land on an aircraft carrier. Pilots are forced to make a steep U-turn before landing at Toncontín Airport, and the gusty winds that are typical here make landing even more difficult. As you exit the plane, you may notice security guards with machine guns at the ready, so the maximum adrenaline rush when you land at this airport is guaranteed. Wellington International Airport in New Zealand has a fairly short runway, which both ends and begins in the water. There are also mountains and residential buildings nearby, and gusty winds add to the danger. Because of the short runway, Wellington Airport has limitations on the size of aircraft that can land here. Large passenger planes are not allowed to do this. At one point there was even a project to widen the runway. However, in the process of designing it turned out that this would require draining the nearest huge body of water. The project was quickly shut down, and the runway remained short and quite dangerous. Gibraltar International Airport has earned its place on the list of the world's most dangerous airports, because its runway is a veritable highway. Every time a plane lands or takes off, the road must be closed. It looks roughly like a railroad crossing, with motorists waiting for a train to pass. The same thing happens at Gibraltar Airport, only with airplanes. By the way, the short runway is only 1,500 meters long and ends abruptly almost directly in the ocean, so pilots need to brake carefully when landing so as not to accidentally drive into the water. Tiamen, an island in the South China Sea belonging to Malaysia, was once named one of the most beautiful islands in the world by Time magazine. But the airport of this island is on the list of the most dangerous in the world. When landing, pilots have to fly straight up the mountain and then make a sudden 90-degree turn to align with the runway. The runway is also over a very steep cliff, which means the landing has to be very fast. Because of such conditions, this airport only uses small planes, small passenger or private aircraft. Barra Airport is located on the Scottish island of the same name. This airport is famous not only because it has a very short runway, but also because it is the only sand runway in the world. In fact, it's just a beach on which a plane lands. However, these are not all the dangers. The fact is that the airport is quite low above sea level. Because of this, at high tide, part of the runway is simply flooded. A small addition to these challenging conditions is the high winds and rainfall that are typical of the region. Don't forget to like it if you found this video interesting. Also subscribe to the channel and click on the bell not to miss new videos, and, of course, leave your comments under this video.